Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Cult Classic Society, the podcast where we look at movies, games, TV shows, music, never books, but we're talking about a book, a movie adaptation of a book actually, the second time we've done that. We are talking about Dune, the 1984 version. But first off, Bobby, how you doing, man?
I am very good, Tim. Have I ever told you? I don't know why, you just triggered this in my mind. I wrote my dissertation on the idea of adaptation. So
I feel like you have. You must have. Like,
I don't know if maybe
episodes.
Yeah, maybe I told you. I don't know. Yeah, but my dissertation was about the idea of adaptation. Maybe like not always strictly from books, but from any kind of content. But I focused quite heavily on books because they're the ones that are always contentious. Because people are always like, they missed out this bit. The character doesn't say stuff the way I imagined it. They've got the different colour hair to what it says in the book. It's like, so
yeah, that's always the case, I find. But apart from your dissertation on how's the present day you?
Present day me is very, very good, Tim. Working on loads of wrestling stuff. I've got some other cool stuff in the pipeline as well. You go look at my socials. I did some wedding-based material that I was very excited about doing. It was good fun. I did. There was a lady who put together a supplier day for weddings, and they did what was it called? Urban disco cowgirl theme.
Ooh, that sounds really cool.
Tim, you would have been in your fucking element. There was people dressed in like leather jackets, but with fucking Stetsons. You would have been.
Oh, I've been all over that. Over that.
It had solid Tim Martini vibes.
Well, enough about my dream wedding. We're going to be talking about David Lynch's adaptation of Dune.
You fucking love David Lynch, don't you?
I do. I have appreciation for him. I love the weirdness that he brings to his projects.
Yeah,
Dune is a weird book.
Another thing that sits well within the Tim Martini scope. Just odd things.
Yeah, odd is just me, isn't it?
Yeah. Little oddball. I don't know. I wasn't even going to put this on the podcast. But recently, I invited you to socialise with some of my oldest friends, my school friends, and you've not really had a lot of time with them. Most of our socialising comes within like the wrestling sphere, and I don't know. I feel like you had a real oddball competition with my friend Connor.
Like, I think he won, to be honest.
Yeah, you ain't beating Connor in an oddball competition. But it's the first time he's had a challenge for a while, Tim. So well done.
I'm glad I was the one who rose to the occasion that day. And the thing that we spoke about that entire time that it spawned from was Dune. So
that's what I was going to mention. Unless you want to mention the jokes that were made.
I think there's just like a lot of like missing context, especially like the blue beer and what that represented.
Mate, it was a weird night, let's be honest.
It was, but shout out to Papa Smurf.
Oh dear, he got around that night.
But yeah, Dune. What did you know about Dune just in general?
I knew that it was originally a book. I knew that there was a film in the 80s, and that I had already watched part 1 of the new ones. I still haven't watched the second part, even though we discussed it a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So the thing about Dune, every fan would say this, it is a notoriously hard book to adapt. It's extremely dense, and all the action really happens off screen. Like, in terms of a book, it's like he will just Frank Herbert, the author, will just go, and this happened. Now let's look at how the characters respond to it.
It's quite political, I think.
Yes.
As well, like there's a lot of politics that goes on in it. I feel like, did George Lucas, is that where he got his inspiration for the prequel trilogy? Like, let's just talk about the politics of this universe.
Well, George Lucas claims that nothing was inspired by Dune, even though Dune is considered the godfather of sci-fi. Because Dune was written in the 60s, and it was like the first you can see a lot of the templates in like a lot of modern day sci-fi.
Really, there's a lot of good sci-fi from even before that though. Like when you talk about people like Jules Verne and who's the bloke that wrote the Time Machine?
H.R. Geiger?
No, he's an artist.
No. Yeah, he is. H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, that's the fella. I've read the Time Machine as well. The language is difficult. And as someone who... I'm quite a slow reader at the best of times, Tim. When you're talking in, 1800s English, that and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne were, like, difficult reads. Even 1984 is quite a difficult read. The language isn't as impenetrable as those others, but there is some, and I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah, no, I gave up halfway through that book. It's a short book, and I gave up. I was like, I can't be bothered to, like, decipher this.
I persisted with 1984, and I quite like the analogies of it. And he was about 40 years out with his dates, but it's more prevalent now than it was about 1984.
Yeah.
If he'd have called it 2024, he'd have been more on the nose, I'll be honest with you.
But so this film, it's got a big reputation with Dune fans because it was the first attempt at this.
Oh, well, look at that. What year was it released?
1984.
Hey.
It was the first attempt, and there's already a lot of issues with it. Considering, first off, David Lynch, he wrote a 4-hour script.
Of course he did.
Because he understood, how dense this is. The studio asked him to cut it down to 2.5 hours. So
ended up being a tad shorter than that, didn't it?
Yeah, about 2 hours, 20 minutes. So already there's an issue with the fact that this dense book has been shortened down. And we'll go into the issues as the movie progresses, but we'll go into the opening, which has an open narration from Princess Irulan, which is very similar to how it's done in the books. In each chapter, she does like a little narration where she will just like describe outer world stuff, describing like passages from like all the different families. So this was standard, and she explains that the spice is the most valuable substance in the universe because it's primarily used for space travel. It's how they can travel at intergalactic speeds, and it only exists on the planet Arrakis. Blah blah blah. And so basically everyone wants that spice because if they do it, they'll become the richest family in the world.
I like it's almost on the nose calling it spice. Like it almost feels like let's not come up with an original name for something that is essentially somehow a fuel and a Class A drug. But I don't know what it is. Something about the word spice just makes you go, you wanted to make sure people understood what was going on here, didn't you? You wanted to like hit that bang on the nose. Didn't want to come up with some clever name for it.
No,
I'm going to say straight off the bat, like, in terms of the look and production, some of this feels a bit influenced by early original Doctor Who and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and things like that.
When did original Hitchhikers happen?
So the book was in the 70s, but the series was 81.
Oh, okay.
So it was about 3 years before this, yeah.
Okay. So what was your reaction to see like Toto worked on the soundtrack?
Oh, mate, that's in my notes. All I've written down is music by Toto. Hell yeah!
I have music by Toto in all caps.
Yes. You know what? You know what this desert planet could have used? Could have used some rains. That's what it could have used.
I mean, that's what they're dying for, to be honest. No rain has ever existed on Arrakis. That's the big point. It's a very dry planet.
Yeah, man, you're never going to get me away from that.
So, this is what I love about both this movie and the book. They just flat out say in the opening of the movie with like the Guild family coming to see the Emperor, yeah, the Emperor wants to kill the Atreides family.
Yeah, after giving us... So, the girl at the beginning gives us this Jesus prophecy, and then the guy's like, I want to kill this person. So it's like, oh, we're going full on kind of Jesus thing here. Yeah. Like there's a prophecy of a chosen one or a special one and they want to kill him. So let's get this Bible shit down straight away.
Because it's funny, because in the Denis Villeneuve movie, they treat it as a mystery to why would the Emperor want Atreides to go to Arrakis and everything. In this, it's like, no, we're sending the Atreides to Arrakis, so then the Harkonnens who used to own Arrakis will want to kill them in revenge.
Yeah. And do you know what happens before that scene, Tim? I think it's before
What,
that
the
scene.
giant floating alien?
No, not just that. We get a fucking pre-film credit sequence. I don't know what it is. That is I think I've gone over it before in this podcast. That is my bugbear. I hate that. I hate the idea that you're going to waste minutes of time like making people read names on the screen. People who are actually interested and want to know will watch the credits.
Yeah.
They get on my tits. Don't get me wrong, you can have stuff happening with it rolling along the bottom, or, have it come up when there's stuff actually happening. But
Yeah.
just rolling through scenery and having names, I don't know why, it really rubs me the wrong way. It feels like such a waste of time. Because the people who don't care aren't going to remember the names.
I was going to say, look, now that everyone sticks for the credits because everyone does a post-credit scene now.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. My friend did a superhero movie in uni, and he obviously did a post-credit scene. And
Of course.
the only bit of acting I did in the entire of uni was I was in that post-credit scene.
Did you ask him to join the Avengers?
Kind of.
But what did you think of like the creature design for like the Navigator, which is a creature that isn't even featured in the Denis Villeneuve version? Like this is like one like the stark differences. Lynch kind of like goes more into the weirdness of the Dune universe.
Is that the face of Bo? The blob monster? I don't know, yeah, he just reminded me of like the face of Bo or the Dalek Emperor or something. Which is obviously, that's modern Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bit of an odd character design. Very sci-fi. I do wonder if that's where, retroactively, Russell T Davies got his inspiration for that kind of monster from.
Yeah,
Or
because
that kind of alien.
It's described like that in the in the Dune book, like the floating creature and everything. But again, like Lynch being his weird self, he's going to include that and everything. But the Denis Villeneuve version just omitted that completely.
Well, I wouldn't say they're strictly... They feel like... they don't really come back in any real sense. Their presence only lingers over it in the idea that they're the one making the Emperor kill them, when you could just have the Emperor be the one who wants to kill them. And it's like, let's just cut out the middleman here.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously at the same time, the Emperor has a Bene Gesserit witch who is basically someone who can read people's minds for him and give them all their secrets. And she's like, well, no, I want to see this Paul Atreides first, because the Bene Gesserits have been doing this weird ancestral thing where they've been manipulating houses to produce offspring so they can produce their messiah, known as the Kwisatz Haderach. Yes, a very complicated name.
I've written very few of the names down in this. They've all got very weird descriptions of what I think they either look like, sound like, or are dressed like.
I have something funny to show you. So I showed this off in the last episode. I have the Arrow limited edition of Dune. In the booklet that comes with it, they have a glossary
Hey.
of all the terms, because yeah, it's really hard to remember everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck that. Like, there's something to be said, like, for a bit of techno babble in sci-fi, but using in one movie, creating that much depth and that much extra shit, it seems unnecessary.
Yeah, again, that was like part of the problem when you're adapting a book like that, because the book itself has the glossary, but
Obviously, yeah.
when you're adapting a movie that has basically its own language, and you're not like, so like with Lord of the Rings when it's Elvish, we have subtitles for it. No, you're incorporating it in the English language, so you're asking people to remember it while also like trying to process what they're hearing naturally.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of a very, like, who most people who go to cinema, especially in the 80s, the cinema was a big deal. People go as a social thing. They're going to see there's a sci-fi, they're going to go watch it, and they're going to come out going, the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah. That's why I had a lot of fear when the Denis Villeneuve version was coming out. I was like, oh no. Like, oh no.
Oh no, oh no.
Yeah. But we get introduced to Paul, and it's lovely Carl McLaren in his first ever role, actually.
Really? Oh, he's clearly
Yeah.
pre. He's clearly very pre Twin Peaks because he's about 10 years younger.
Yeah.
And also, it's weird the things that you know from. I'm sure he's in what's that thing called? My mum used to watch it. Sex of the City.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I'm sure he's in that. And then he's also what else has he been in? I'm sure he's been in.
He's the captain in How I Met Your Mother.
That's it. Yeah, that show that went off the rails. But let's not go on to that. I feel like we've already sidetracked
in
loads.
the finale. In the finale, it did.
I feel like we've already sidetracked loads. Let's keep going.
Yes. So in this scene, Paul is just researching what Arrakis is because they're now moving there. So he's trying to understand everything about it. Just when he learns that there's never been a drop of rain on Arrakis, like, it's a very dry planet. Then Patrick Stewart shows up.
Yeah, man. I'd what's his name? Picard. Yeah, here he is.
Yeah. He plays Gurney Halleck in this. He's one of the security men. He's there with Dr. Yue and Forfeit, the actual chief of security. And they're like going, well, we're going to train you how to fight again today because, you're going to a dangerous planet. You need to train. And Paul says, I'm not in the mood today, Gurney. And Gurney responds with, mood's a thing for cattle and love play.
God, that sounds a lot like your roleplay analogy.
I learned from the best. I learned from the ageless wonder that is Patrick Stewart.
Man, he's the best, isn't he? Fucking Avery in American Dad is unreal. So funny.
Yeah. I still can't believe they get him to say all that stuff, to be honest.
Hey, man, he seems game for anything. As long as there's cash involved, clearly.
Yeah. So this is one of the most infamous things about the Dune movie, which is the blocky shields.
Oh, man, they look like shit. They look like the first attempt at rendering a PlayStation 1 game. They look so bad. And they're fucking
noisy. They don't use them in another scene. Like, they do in this one scene and then never again.
No, one does appear later, for very briefly.
Oh, yeah. But it's not like in, again, the Denis Villeneuve movie where, because it's so seamlessly integrated, they can use it in multiple scenes.
Yeah. They're so noisy as well. Like, the sound mix on this scene is horrible.
Yeah.
It had my teeth on edge.
Yeah, it's just so horrendous. But they're both fighting, and there gets to the point where Paul thinks he's beaten Gurney, but Gurney says, if you look down, I would have killed you too.
Yeah. The best you can do is that we draw. That is like your best effort.
Yeah.
We draw.
So what I find funny about it is the entire Atreides family, like clan, understands, yes, us going to Arrakis is a trap. But the best way we can counter this trap is by us knowing it's a trap, and we go into it. It's like, I think the best way to avoid a trap is to not go into a trap.
It really reminds me of that scene in Friends where they're like, they don't know we know they know we know.
And it's just so stupid. And so in this, they also show off how they handle combat in this, which is by using the Weirding Way, which is a gun that responds to your vocal cords.
Oh, yeah. So bizarre.
So this was a change that they made for the movie.
Really?
Yes. They made this because they couldn't get enough stuntmen to do actual combat scenes. So to counter this, they decided to do voice-based combat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there goes... I mean, there's already some problems, but the first big problem I'm assuming the fanboys had with the adaptation.
Yeah, it's a choice change.
It's a choice.
Yeah. So this is a weird thing because they introduced Duncan, who is like Paul's best friend, and introduced the fact that he goes ahead with the main party. The only reason this is now like I'm bringing this up because it's meant to be a big thing because he introduces the family later in the book to Stilgar, like the head of a Fremen clan. That scene doesn't happen in the movie, so introducing Duncan as like a main player was a really stupid choice.
I feel like the first thing I wrote was, "Oh look, it's Wedge Antilles. I mean Duncan." It's that friend of the main character who has no real depth of character,
Yeah.
which is exactly what happens in Star Wars with Wedge.
Which is a shame because Duncan is a very important character in the Dune universe. He becomes a main character in the second book.
Has anyone ever adapted the second book?
Denis Villeneuve is adapting it in his next movie.
Okay, cool.
And they kind of do in the Dune miniseries Children of Dune, where the first episode is Dune Messiah. I haven't watched it yet because I'm reading Children of Dune now.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's being adapted properly now. So excited for it. But yeah, Duncan Idaho is essentially the main character of that movie. And well, you've read, you've watched Dune Part 1.
Yep.
You know that Duncan dies.
Yes, he does. I hadn't even put together that they were the same character because they're played so differently.
That's what I mean. It's Jason Momoa's character.
Yeah.
That's who this is meant to be, and he's treated just like a random nobody in this.
So weird. Yeah. Such an odd. Until you said that, like I couldn't remember that character's name, but yeah, that is weird that they're played so differently. Like this one, he is literally. I'm going to call him Wedge. If he comes up again, his name's Wedge.
Yeah. So then we have the meeting of Paul and his father later discussing, leaving Caladan and how, later just wants Paul to be his own person, blah, blah, blah. Typical, I'm a good father to you. That means I'm going to die soon thing.
Yes. Bad fathers live, good fathers die. Movies.
Exactly. And this is when we cut to Paul having dreams, and this is where we start to see how he has the ability of foresight, of future sight, where he can see visions of a future that may come.
I think he's just high as fuck.
We wish, but he hasn't got spice yet.
He also gets... So in the books, is it spice? It feels like that's a side effect that spice should cause. Like he's got a dormant thing in his brain, and then he takes the spice, and then all of a sudden he can see. Yeah,
so that's one thing that this movie didn't explain well. So he already has the ability because he is a Bene Gesserit essentially. He's the son of a Bene Gesserit witch, so he has that dormant ability. The spice just accentuates it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought in my head it would have been better if it was dormant until the spice unlocked it, giving the spice even more power.
Yeah, but the whole idea is his so the character we get introduced now, Lady Jessica, she trains him because she stupidly... Well, okay, so the whole idea with the Bene Gesserit is they always want girls as a part of their order, but the plan was to basically have Atreides be a girl and then Harkonnens be a boy, marry them together, create the ultimate superpower.
Oh, yeah.
But because Jessica fell in love with Leto for shoot, and he wanted a son, she was like, okay, you have a son, because they can determine their child's gender.
Wow, you telling that kid what he's going to be before he's born?
Yeah.
mate, that's not a good place to be living in.
No, it's not. But the Bene Gesserit witch, the Reverend Mother that we saw at the start with the Emperor, she's here to test Paul to basically see if he's worthy of being called a Bene Gesserit or becoming the Kwisatz Haderach. And this is when when they do the test with the hand in the box.
The box!
And what this test is basically, he puts his hand in a box and she has a poison dart up against his neck, and the box is going to basically burn his hand, and if he flinches, she will stab him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hadn't even got the idea that she was going to stab him. I thought he was just going to die if he like tried to take his hand out. I hadn't realised that it was her killing him. I thought if the act of doing it in the middle of the process would have killed him. I hadn't even conjured the idea that it was a knife. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, in the book, they write that he remains perfectly still.
Mm-hmm.
In the movie, he's flinching, shaking, screaming. And it's like, whoa, okay. I get it for a movie, you have to show like he's reacting to the pain in a way. But the whole idea is that he's meant to be able to tough out through it.
So I got a few notes here just around this. It was around this scene. My first one is the idea of them wanting a daughter to marry across the nations as a treaty. This whole idea of very kind of old-fashioned, ancient almost civilization and the way you build civilization, but in sci-fi, is like super common, isn't it? Like the amount of they borrow stuff from the ancient world and go like, this is also the rituals of this place that also has spaceships and lasers. So okay. And also I wrote here, the amount of extra exposition they have to put in to explain everything with the sci-fi bollocks is mad. It feels like if you're going to do this movie and do it in 2 hours, you need to cut away, like strip away so much of the exposition and just focus on the actual point of the story, as opposed to going, there's this little detail that we love, so it's going in. I would have been like, strip away all the extra sci-fi bollocks, keep the story, and go as down the middle as possible. You're still going to piss people off, but at least that way the everyday viewer, your common folk, are going to be like, well, that was entertaining.
Yeah. But unfortunately, they decided to go, like, no, we're gonna try and please the fan by keeping every single detail possible.
Yeah. The score's lovely, though. I enjoyed the score at this point.
Yeah, good job, Toto.
Yes.
So while the box is burning his hand, you see visually what he thinks is his hand burning, flesh peeling. But he
lovely bit of 80s special effects.
Yeah. But he passed the test, he pulls out his hand, and his hand is fine. Because all it's doing is just attacking the nerves.
Yeah. Which
is very clever. And then she tells him about the water of life, which is not what happens. He's not meant to find out at this point. He's meant to find out later. But what the water of life is basically bile from a newborn sandworm, and if you drink it, you not only get the power to see the future, I swear to fucking God, this is how it works. You inherit the life and memories of all the other reverend mothers on the planet that you drink that on.
Fuck me. There's a line she says here where she says, fear is the little death. Now, do you know what the little death actually means as a literal translation from French?
No.
So the French call an orgasm in French little death. So I was like, she just telling him about coming? I don't really know what's...
She tells him the story about the Kwisatz Haderach as well, and basically how, we think we're searching for him. What this is, as I said, it's them just populating everything at all these families with the hope that one day just make their miracle baby. There's one detail this movie excludes.
Okay.
The Baron of Harkonnen is Jessica's father.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And the Bene Gesserit's plan was for Jessica to birth a daughter, and then one of so then that daughter would then marry one of the Baron's children, and then they would create a child who would become the Kwisatz Haderach. Their end goal was incest.
Yeah. I mean, this is again another ancient thing being pulled back. Fucking sci-fi. No, that's I don't even know. The guy who wrote Dune, who wrote the book?
Frank Herbert.
What was his personal life like, Timothy?
don't want to know.
No, fair enough. I'll put another note here. The jumping between inner monologue and dialogue is fucking maddening.
Yeah,
Because it seems like every character also has the ability to. It's because they need so much exposition. Obviously, there's a way to force in the exposition.
yeah,
But every character has an inner monologue that you hear. And sometimes you don't know if they're fucking talking. The camera angles can be a bit wank at points, and you don't know if they're talking to themselves. Sometimes you don't know whose monologue it fucking is. Oh, mate, it drove me
yeah.
fucking mad. We're only like 20 minutes into the film, and I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? As a storytelling device, that is shit.
Oh no,
I don't mind.
I find narration like overly relying on narrations in movies to be lazy because it's a visual medium. Show don't tell.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. A little bit of exposition through voiceover is okay. And in fact, you know, one of my favourite movies is obviously High Fidelity, where instead of a voiceover, he speaks to you, which I think is actually slightly less lazy because you get more of the character then. It feels more like a diary or whatever. But keep it to the main character, for fuck's sake. At least then you know what's going on.
So now we get introduced to the Baron Harkonnen on Gedi Prime, the home world, which is a very like mechanical looking world.
Yeah.
And we get introduced to his two nephews, Raban and Fade, played by
Oh, Sting.
It's Sting.
He's a good digger, you know.
So I'm just gonna say right now, Sting can't act.
No, he's very fucking wooden, isn't he?
Yeah.
He reminds me of, you know, in Back to the Future, there's that cameo by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Except Flea does the opposite. Flea goes so manic. Like, he delivers some stuff really woodenly, and then he just decides to go manic. And it feels like that's what... I don't know. I know Back to the Future was same year as this or year after.
I think year after, yeah.
It's year after, 85, yes. But it feels like he's trying to do what Flea does there, except he can't capture that manic energy. He tries to like grin, and none of the energy comes across.
So they just openly say in the movie, we have a traitor in the Atreides, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, like I get that, because in again the Denis Villeneuve version, they play up the mystery of like how everything's going wrong. Clearly, something's happening. In this guy, we have a traitor. It was that easy.
Ah, yeah, traitor. Get him. Get the traitor.
And the Baron can just fly.
And he has injections in his pus face.
Yeah.
Fucking gross. It really reminded me of like the young... Well, you've never seen the young ones, have you? We'll cover the young ones at some point.
We'll cover one
but
day.
the young ones sometimes feels gross for the sake of being gross.
So the Atreides finally leave Caladan and head for Arrakis. There's just a weird flashback of Jessica and Leto in bed going, I don't want to leave. Like, for no reason. They could have cut that out.
There's a bit of that scene you missed, where for some fucking unknown reason, the Baron decides to bleed some twink and drink his blood.
Oh yeah, no, the Baron is a very sexual character, even in the book. The reason he likes having Fade around in the books is because he looks like a young Paul Atreides.
Kinky little fucker.
Yeah, that's literally why. There's just a random pug now as well that Paul's holding on to.
I love the pug. The pug was my favourite bit so far.
We see that there are navigators that they use to create the split stream for space travel. Again, that's not shown in the Denis Villeneuve version. They just travel from the planets and that's it.
I like the idea. They say it in the beginning. One of the concepts I like is they say at the beginning, oh, the spice has the ability. It's so powerful that if you put it in an engine, you essentially like fold space.
Yeah.
And that's a very Hitchhiker's thing. Have you read or anything like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? So there's an incredibly powerful ship that they all want in Hitchhikers that has a thing called the improbability drive or the probability drive, and it causes random chaos, but it means it allows you to travel from one end of the universe to the other. So like you just like pop 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 pop, and like weird things happen. Then all of a sudden you're where you want to be, but you have to go through these factors of improbability first.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a very. I love the books anyway. I love the books, the Hitchhikers.
So, the Reverend Mother of Arrakis already senses that Paul has arrived, so more of that Messiah, like, oh, he's here kind of thing. And we see that Duncan's already at the base again. Not important if he's not going to contribute much to the story. I'm very bitter about this one point because
I can tell.
yeah, because as I said, Duncan's a very important character. So to treat him like he's just a random nobody is really infuriating. But he says to Leto, we can make an alliance with the Fremen, and that's what Leto's goal is because he wants to be a better leader on this planet than how the Harkonnens were, because Harkonnens were just there for profits. He's there for the people. So as Arrakis is a very dry planet, the whole Atreides clan need to preserve their water due to its scarcity. So they literally just have to ration out a bottle a day.
You're gonna be thirsty.
Yeah, which I don't know about you. I couldn't manage that. I'm on my third bottle already.
Yeah, I mean, I drink. I'm pretty much always got a drink of something. It's usually either a cup of tea, as you can see in my lovely Simpsons mug.
Are you a fan?
Or yeah, just a bit. Me as a Simpsons character. I think you can probably see some Simpsons here somewhere. And then I've also got my water bottle as well.
So also then the Harkonnens, as another fuck you, they have left a lot of sabotage devices behind.
I love this. He's like, we're finding them too easy. It's like, well,
yeah. So then they meet Dr. Kynes, played by Max von Sydow.
Is that supposed to ring a bell?
You don't know Max von Sydow?
I don't think so.
He's the old priest in The Exorcist.
I've seen The Exorcist once. I'm not.
You really don't know? Oh,
I'm not huge on my horror. If he's a horror guy, man, you know that.
Oh, he's an iconic actor. I'm actually shocked by that.
Wow. Occasionally there's just something that slips you by. This feels like maybe it's one of those. Yeah.
You'll look him up after the podcast. And you go, oh,
that's the thing. I've probably seen him in loads of stuff, and my brain just hasn't registered his name. It's like, yeah. I mean, it's that dude. Yeah.
But so a chain. Well, something that they ignore in both this film and the Denis Villeneuve movie. He is Charnie's father.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, in the Denis Villeneuve movie, he is a woman in that movie, so obviously they can do that. But this is a fact. Yeah, could be a mother, but yeah, they skip over that fact in both movie adaptations. Maybe they just thought it wasn't necessary or whatever. Like, it doesn't really drive the plot forward in either way. But in the 2000 miniseries, they actually do address it. Just a little touch I thought I'd mention. I'm going to be discussing differences, as you can tell. But
keep going, man. I just because there's so much deep lore and there's so many characters.
Yes,
I'm just like, okay, brain, try to link what he's saying.
Who is Charlie?
Yeah.
Because we haven't been introduced to her yet. That is who we'll see to be Paul's partner.
I knew who she was. Yeah, I remember the character's name.
Yeah.
When they do the Pocahontas bit, yeah.
Yes. So, Dr. Kynes explains how the still suit works, which is what every Fremen uses, and how it gathers your body's moisture, filters it, and then allows you to drink it. And basically says, if you have a perfectly functioning still suit, you can survive weeks in the desert.
Makes sense.
Would you risk it? Because you are drinking essentially your own piss and the moisture from your shit.
Rather than die? I'm sure. I'm also sure they say sweat in this specifically, rather than anything else.
It's mainly just sweat, but he does say the lower part of the body, it does filter that as well. Like in the lower section, like the thigh section, that's where it filters your shit and piss.
You're acting like the water we drink today hasn't had shit and piss in it.
That is very true.
This has had tons of shit in it, Tim. It's just been cleaned and filtered, and assuming the suit can do the same thing. Yeah, fine.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's just some people, if you tell them that, oh, there's potential this has shit in it, they'll go,
mate, as a society, we're drinking so much shit that gets flushed into the water. Recycled water from your own body excrements is probably way better.
It's to say, I know what goes in my body. I am fine. So as Dr. Kind's like setting up people's store suits, you notice that Paul's has set up his up perfectly. And he recites part of the prophecy, which was, he will know your ways as if he was born into them. It's like, he is Jesus.
Either that or he's just a tech dude, you know? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this clearly works this way. Yeah.
So Dr. Kynes is giving them a tour to see how the spice is mined on the planet. And while that's happening, we see that Yue is looking over some Harkonian like bodies, and that there is a message for him in one of the bodies, which basically spells out he's the traitor.
Yes.
And we'll
There's
figure
a
out
nice-
why later.
It's a nice random bit of. You missed out a bit there though. Before that, I was a bit like, I've got that in my notes, and you've jumped forward a bit. That's why. There's also a bit where they are monitoring comms and they hear what they see as the Harkonnen language, and they're like, "Oh my god, they're here!"
Yes. So again, this is so dense. I can't remember things to note down.
Yeah, the doctor, the one we said with the hidden message. So he's essentially the mortician,
Yes.
and
Well, no, it's just ordered a doctor as well, like, in general.
oh well, he's in a morgue for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's a fair few dead bodies, and they're trading the messages using the dead bodies. Yeah,
Which is kind of clever. Because they know he's going to be the first one to see it.
yeah. I mean, it's as good a way as any if you're trying to talk to a doctor. Have you been trying to make an appointment recently, Tim? It's really hard.
Oh yeah, you wake up, you call them at 8, you're in the waiting room, the virtual waiting room, and then they go, all appointments are busy, right? Like, taken up now.
Thanks. Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah. So back on the ship, they spot a worm that's heading towards one of the spice like harvesters. So they call it into the spice harvesters, basically say, hey, you may want to evacuate. Did you recognize who that miner was on the ship?
No, I'm just playing. Miss all the actors today, aren't I? Who is
That
it?
was a young David Lynch in a cameo.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
So they basically say they're not going to have enough time to evacuate everyone and claim the spice. And later it's like, the hell with the spice. I want those men alive. Which is like a big like, oh, okay, he actually cares about us.
Yeah, it's a bit different to the last lot, you know.
Yeah. So the spice hits Paul as they like letting everyone in, and he goes, that's good shit.
He goes full Vince McMahon.
Yeah. So they escape. They see everyone. They see like the worm swallow the ship whole, which I would say is actually a pretty decent use of special effects.
Yeah, for a 1984 movie, presumably then shot in 83 mostly, I was pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, nice practical use of puppetry and miniatures.
Also, I also thought what they did that was quite clever was not try to show too much of the worm.
Yeah.
Like, let the maw be the main fear. That way you don't have to show this huge rubbery creature that you've made.
Yeah. So we cut back and we see that Jessica has to inspect the servants because...
Again,
reasons.
a weird sci-fi, but also antiquated moment.
Yeah. And Jessica's with Yue, and Yue basically alludes to the fact that his wife was taken by the Harkonnens. And so...
He wants
Jessica-
to give a warning.
Yeah, but Jessica thinks, oh no, he's had imperial conditioning. That means, he wouldn't betray us for any reason.
None whatsoever.
And what's funny, there's a little servant there, and she's going, there's a traitor. I need to warn Paul Atreides about the traitor.
Yeah, that's the one I noted down. Sorry, the servant that wants to warn them of all the danger.
And then Paul takes what I can only describe as an edible spice.
Oh yeah, man, he has a fucking full-on trip after taking this.
Yeah. Which again just gives him more visions of shit that happens. And while that's happening, a hunter-seeker drone enters the room.
A robot needle.
Yeah. which its vision is based on movement, which is the dumbest fucking thing for an assassination like tool.
Yeah, are they a dinosaur? Is that what this is?
So he has to hold completely still for it for him to like not be noticed by it. But as that happens, the servant enters the room and he's able to catch it in time, like smash it against the wall to save her. And
yeah, it's like flying directly at her, isn't it? It's like, rah.
Yeah. And it's the same servant who's like, I'm here to warn you as of a traitor. It's like, okay, who is it? I cannot say because I don't know. It's like, that's helpful.
You're fucking useful, aren't you? Yeah, I'll invite you again. Jesus.
Yeah. So they all try to like find the Hunter Seeker, the owner of the Hunter Seeker, which is a dead Harkonnen. And
yeah, laying in the rubble.
Yeah. So they've now tightened security on the palace, which fat load that's going to do.
Yeah, well, they go into lockdown and there's a massively long speech. And the idea of this whole, I know it's for a good 30 or 40 seconds. And you might as well have just gone, we're on lockdown. Like, that's the fucking, the whole point of the speech. It just goes on and on.
We see that the Harkonnens are getting closer to Arrakis. Leto goes into Paul's room and he's like, good night, son. Hope you have pleasant dreams. And Paul's just there like, Dad, I've been drugged.
Yeah, he's not having the best of time at this moment. It's about the middle of the film. Yeah, it's probably a bit later than that, where Paul goes from being a bit of he's being led by everyone else to actually taking control, and we're pushing that moment now.
Yeah. So Leto has a little inner monologue where he says that he regrets not marrying Jessica.
Yeah.
So basically, she's just his concubine, because the whole idea in Dune, because families want political power, they'll have a concubine who will have their actual child, but then they will marry like an heir to another throne, just for the sake of having political power.
Again, using a historic setup.
Yeah. And that's what the plan was for him to do, to eventually do. But he kind of sensed that he knew he was going to die eventually, and he regretted not marrying Jessica because he actually was in love with her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Again, it's handled better in the Denis Villeneuve movie, where in this moment they are talking to each other, Jessica and Leto, and he says it to her.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
so a bit of a kind of more genteel, softer moment between two people. Then he's like, I should have married her.
Yeah, exactly. But
isn't this where he's also Leto, the Duke, has had a fake tooth put in his head now? Are we at that point?
Not yet. So he sees a servant is been murdered, and then that's when he gets paralyzed by Yue. And Yue tells him, I've taken down the shield, the Harkonnens are about to destroy this place. But he says, basically, I'm going to give you the poison tooth, use this on the Baron, and I will make sure Jessica and Paul live.
Wow. Dark. Yeah. There's some dark shit right there. Dick move.
Yeah, it's a dick move. He takes Leto's signet ring, the Atreides signet ring. He's like, I'll make sure Paul has this. So he essentially does become Duke. And the Harkonnens commence their attack. And this is basically a massacre.
Yeah, man, they fucking destroy the place.
I laughed at Gurney carrying the pug with him into battle.
Mate, that pug, I bet you that pug survives. That pug took down 6 or 7 men by himself.
So there's a major difference between how this is done and how it's done in the Denis Villeneuve movie. So in the Denis Villeneuve movie, the Harkonnens also get the Emperor's elite guard known as the Sardaukar, who are the elite fighting force. Basically, you can't touch them. They're that good. Mm-hmm. And that's because the Atreides, in terms of their combat skills, are better than the Harkonnens.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a really cool way this is shown, because there's a scene where in the movie, when the siege is happening, the Atreides are just clobbering the Harkonnens, and then the Harkonnens are being backed off, and then the Sardaukar sneak in behind them and just massacre them. And even when some like the Israeli soldiers realize what's happening, they can't even get hit in because the Sardaukar are that good.
It's too late. Just
Yeah.
too late.
But in this, it's like, no, Harlequins are better.
Just skip over that bit, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, like, I get he's, like, removing elements because, you know, you want to, like, make this movie faster. But as you said, he's done a lot of exposition. And I feel like this is, like, the one thing that I would have preferred to have in.
Yeah, you've taken out a bit that probably a fair few fans would have liked to kind of show that stature in who are the
Yeah.
dominant species or dominant
Yeah.
tribe. And then,
It's
yeah.
basically, like, the Harkonnens needed assistance to do this
Yeah.
kind of thing. So then Paul and Jessica are brought before the Baron. The dude just, like, Baron just spits on on her face.
Oh, it's so gross. It's so graphic.
Yeah, it's very graphic. Piter, who is the Baron's assistant, says, "Yeah, we broke UA's conditioning," which what was obviously said in the book as well, and it's meant to be like an implication with that. Like, okay, how strong is Imperial conditioning? Because you're meant to abandon all emotion essentially.
Like a Jedi.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, how impactful is this conditioning then? Like, if it's just as simple as saying we have your wife, and is that enough? Like, just throw away everything, kind of thing.
Yeah. Or do you need to see like a massacre like Finn did in Star Wars?
Yeah,
Like, what's
So-
the levels?
yeah. So Piter orders for Jessica and Paul to be taken into the desert for the worms to eat them.
That's a solid way to execute someone.
Yeah. Duncan just gets randomly killed.
Yeah, tries to save Paul, gets killed in his shit
Yeah.
shield. This is where we see the shield again.
Yeah. And, you know, wasted because, again, Duncan's meant to die later in a more impactful moment. UA is brought before the Baron, and he's like, I can take you to your wife. And then Piter just stabs him in the back.
In hell, that's where your wife is.
Yeah. So while Paul and Jessica are on the ship, Paul tries to use the voice on the Harkonnens. And after a couple of attempts, it works.
Well, what he does, well, I thought this is, I assume it's from the book, which I think is quite a clever moment. He's clearly got not as good control over the, I've called it the witch's voice in my thing,
Yeah.
as a woman or as his mum.
Yeah.
All he needs to do, though, is get them to do one simple task,
Yeah.
which is remove his mother's gag.
Yeah.
He's not trying to take over the ship, nothing like that. He's just like, it's a little influence, a small influence. Because if
Yeah.
you do that, then the person who's good at it is going to fuck him.
Yeah.
I quite like that moment. I thought that was a good little touch.
Yeah, it's very clever because they don't establish in in the movie, but in the book and in the Denis Villeneuve movie, there's a scene where she's training him to use the voice, and it's basically just asking, let's say, get me to bring you that cup. And
Yeah.
it shows like he's almost got it, but she was able to just resist it. So then when it happens in the book and the movie where he's finally able to just get one command, it's like a, oh my god, I actually did it kind of thing. And like the
Yeah.
heat of the moment kind of thing.
One just small little command. Bam.
Yeah. So she gets him to kill the pilot, and Paul's able to land the ship safely, thankfully. Then Leto is brought before the Duke, the Baron. I swap between using those terms.
Leto is the Duke, isn't he?
Yeah. So he's brought before the Baron, but in his dazed, paralyzed confusion, he thinks Piter is the Baron.
They don't look not alike. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They've chosen two actors who you go, I see why he got confused. Especially if he
Yeah.
was basically out of it.
And he uses the poison gas tooth and kills Piter and not the Baron, so the Baron unfortunately survives.
Disgusting motherfucker lives on.
While that happens, Jessica and Paul can just sense that Leto dies.
Yeah. They're using their little witchy powers. They're like, oh, he's
Yeah.
dead. Oh, no.
And the Baron's just like, I'm alive! You can't kill me!
This is my only note for that bit where he's doing that. It's like, this film is so fucking weird.
I know. It's like really cheesy. So then they crash land the ship and they escape into a cave. Paul sees the second moon from his vision, so he's like, "Oh no, maybe my visions are coming true." And then he's also able to see that, right in now, his more of his visions. He sees that one, the guild wants him in particular dead. Sees his father die, and it sees more Sting.
Yeah, he does have a vision of Sting. He also sees one more thing, doesn't he? Because of the spice.
That his mother is pregnant
with his unborn sister.
Yeah. And he also sees that they'll call him Muad'Dib, which right now doesn't mean anything. But
no.
So he explains his dreams to his mother, like how he can just see all this future and everything. In the book and in the movie, he sees this as a bad thing, because he knows a holy war, in his words, is going to happen in his name. And he doesn't want that.
Why would you? Why would you?
Why would you? So they say that they sent... we see that Raban sends Kynes off into the desert to die.
Breaking his suit.
Yeah. In the book and in the movies, he is eaten by a sandworm.
But we don't see that here.
We don't see that here. No, he's just off screen. It's done in different ways. In the book, he's like just set out to walk in there, but because he's walking in a rhythm, it sets off the sandworm and it kills him. In the movie, she uses it as a way to kill Mor-Salakar and save Paul and Jessica. So it's like a self-sacrifice moment.
Yes, that makes sense. I do remember that from the part one.
Yeah.
I have only watched that once, by the way, and I watched it in the cinema, so I weren't really taking notes.
That's fair. I watched it again recently after I watched part 2 because I was like, oh, let's see how they tie together. They tie together well now.
I am going to watch part 2, but I think I'm going to rewatch part 1 first.
I recommend doing it.
Yeah.
So we also see that they captured Thorfinn. This is more of a plot that is from the book, in which they poison him because they have him on their side because they forced him to work for them. Blah blah blah. This doesn't get followed up as an idea. They'll cut back to him again later, but he's basically a non-character at this point.
Yep.
In a smart thing they do in the Denis Villeneuve Part 2, omitted. He's gone. So for all you know, he died in the massacre.
Yeah, unnecessary character.
Yeah, it's really just random. We see all the stuff that UA has left for them. He's left them still suits and plans to make more Weird-In modules, so at least they can attempt to survive. They also have a thumper, which is something that creates a rhythm, so it just repeatedly does that in the sand, which attracts the sandworms.
Yeah, imitates footsteps, essentially. Yeah.
So Paul says, okay, we need to walk without rhythm. The thing is, they immediately start walking normally.
Yeah, they proceed to walk like normal human beings, yeah.
At least, the Denis Villeneuve movie has them walking without rhythm.
Yeah. I imagine he would have been like, no, do it again, too rhythmic.
So, as they're walking, obviously then that sets off the worm who's right behind them. They run away, they make it into another cave, and the worm is trying to break into the cave.
Oh, yeah, he's going to get them. He's going to get them good.
It knocks Paul further down the mountain. But then the worm is just randomly called away.
You hear a thumper in the background.
Yeah. And that's what they realise, like, someone's called a thumper, which means there are people nearby.
Yes.
And then they immediately bump into the Fremen group. So, the way this is done...
Paul has love at first sight.
Not even that. In the book and in the Denis Villeneuve movie, they say, okay, we'll take Paul and raise him to be part of our group, but we won't take the woman because she's old, she'll slow us down. And that's why they turn hostile. Because they're like, well, no, we're both going to live.
Yeah.
In this, they basically go, "Hi, nice to meet you," and Jessica and Paul just immediately attack.
Yeah, they're the arseholes. This is what I said about like the Pocahontas moment. Like the invaders show up and just start being dicks while the
Yeah.
natives are trying to befriend them. It's like, what the hell?
And also, so this is in the movie where we're introduced to Stilgar. The problem is we were meant to meet him much earlier in the book and in the movie because Duncan introduces Stilgar to them as a way. So then when Stilgar goes like, I recognize you. I know who you belong to. I know who your family is. We have more of a reason to take you in.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Here it's just like we're finally introduced to him. It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, as you said, love at first sight. He finally meets Chani, and yeah, he's like, a native woman.
I told you it's the Pocahontas moment.
Yeah. So Stilgar offers them sanctuary if Jessica and Paul teach them how to fight.
Nice. With their voice guns.
Yeah, which is hilarious considering Fremen are expert fighters.
So yeah, they've just changed another big.
Like,
Like, part.
it was more like in the book, Paul's like, okay, I'll teach you the ways. Like, we'll teach you more combat ways, but also then, like how Harkonnens work because we know everything about them.
Strategy as opposed to actual
Yes.
how to fight. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
So-
battlefield strategy. Yeah.
They immediately go, we must give you a native name. We'll name you as Usul. And then, which is like your in private name, but then your public name. And then this is when he goes, what's the name of that little mouse with the 2 ears? And it's like, Muad'Dib.
Mickey.
So,
Let's,
he was,
enough of that, Tim. I'll get sued.
so his name is Paul Muad'Dib Usul.
Fair.
This is very different to the book again because he has to earn it. Because they are very wary of him in the book. Because,
What? Why wouldn't they be?
yeah, white man.
We do fuck a lot of things up.
We do. But in here, they're just like, welcome. Welcome to the clan. Like, immediately.
I want to say here, the blue eye effect is wank. It really kept taking me out of it. I know it's
very
1980.
inconsistent as well.
I know it's 1984, but surely you could get all blue contact lenses in 1984.
Yeah, probably. So they get introduced to the Fremen base, and they see they have massive, like, large water containers, and they say we have hundreds of this all across Arrakis. Like, okay, why is water an issue?
Well, presumably you'd think at least the native peoples would have kind of a way to survive, so they know these underground water sources and have found them, or have created ways to trap water. But yeah, it's not really an issue for these lot, is it, compared to everyone else?
But what this movie doesn't explain is this is water. It's considered holy water because it's water from dead Fremen's moisture. Because
Yeah.
the thing they say is they don't like to waste a body's moisture. So the moment a person dies, they will immediately extract all moisture from that person's body, so then they can use it.
Throw them in the water. There you go.
So they put a drop in to that water, so like it's their water that shared people, but then the rest of it they use for themselves, obviously, to survive.
A lot of them have died, so in this
Yeah.
war. So
But this movie doesn't explain why this is a thing.
I never got that from watching it. So
Yeah. But this shows like more Paul's visions have come to life because he now sees the drops of water that go into it.
yeah,
We don't see the Baron just flying around his room.
yeah, he's got his main squeeze.
Yeah. And he tells Rabban that, you're now in charge of Arrakis. Mine the spice, boy. Mine it.
Do you know how he could get all the spice for himself very quickly? Send out
How?
Sting. Sting's a great digger. just dig up the spice. Send him with a shovel. Be great. That is a Simpsons. That's a Simpsons reference for people who don't get it.
Sting! Dad!
It's the one where Bart gets trapped down a well, and they pretend he's a huge Sting fan when Sting shows up to help, and Marge says, I don't think he's got any of your records, and Homer says,
Quiet,
shush, Marge. He's a good digger.
So as Raban goes to like start mining spice, Fade just appears in his underwear.
Yeah, walking around being all sexy for the Baron.
Yeah, he's just there going, Fade.
Tim, never do that again. That was fucking grim.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah, I know what he's doing, and it sounded horrific on that mic.
So Stilgar asked Lady Jessica to become the new Reverend Mother. Again, in the book, this is out of a necessity for her to basically live in the tribe. It's basically,
I've written here in my notes. Like, what the hell?
yeah, it's basically Paul is able to do it because he's young, he's male, he's able to physically help out on raids and everything. So he's able to do that. And also people are starting to believe that he is I don't think they don't use the term in the movie, Lisanar Gaib, the one from the sky. Their Messiah.
Yeah.
People are starting to buy that. So he's able to work with that and do it. Jessica has no out unless she takes the water of life. They don't say it in this. It's poisonous.
I'm sure they do say it. Don't they say it kills...
It's poisonous to men.
That's what they say here, yeah. It kills men, but not women, yeah.
Yeah. So she has to drink it to basically live.
Mm-hmm.
She drinks it and becomes the new Reverend Mother. They don't say it in this movie again, but in the book, in the miniseries, in the Denis Villeneuve movie, it's like fuck, she's pregnant. We shouldn't have done that. They say, oh, she's pregnant and, Aaliyah gets the abilities. But they don't go, oh, that was a mistake.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Like, in the book, it's like, fuck, we have now just created a literal monster with Aaliyah.
Yeah, she's going to be born with the power.
Yeah. So, but Paul's just there going, I'm going to have to drink that one day.
Yes, you are, Paul. Yes, you are. There's a really fucked up scene here. We go back to the Baron, and he's poisoned one of the Duke's men. The only way he can get an antidote is to milk a cat every day.
Yeah.
And drink the milk.
Yeah. And that's the last we're going to hear about it.
Weird.
So Paul and Chani are together now.
They're hooking up, man.
And Paul is now teaching. He said, "I will teach 100 of your men the Weirden way. So then those hundreds will teach 1,000. So those thousands will teach everyone else." Which is smart.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it's time saving. And this is when we see how they do it, which is basically using vocal guns.
Yes. They're so weird.
And this is where they take a line from the book and make it literal. Because when one of the guys is using the Weirden way, goes, Muad'Dib, it activates the gun. And he goes, my name is a killing word. What that means in the book is people saying his name while they commit acts of violence, they kill. That's what it means.
Yeah. Literally, yeah. And
yeah. But he takes it literally.
That's so dumb. That is so dumb.
This was the moment I was like, oh, you fucker. So Muad'Dib was like, I need to ride a sandworm to prove my stature to everyone.
It makes sense, yeah. Go take one of the big boys.
So he summons a sandworm, and it's more touched upon in Dune Part 2, but he doesn't just summon any sandworm. He summons Shai Hulud, which is meant to be the holy sandworm, the largest sandworm on Dune.
The big boy.
Yes. And how does he climb the sandworm?
He just runs up the carapace, basically, doesn't he?
He
Yeah.
just runs alongside it. And then just like stabs it into it and then just like hopes the worm rotates so he can get on top.
Yeah, and then put some reins on it, and it's his. That's how that works,
Yeah.
right? That's how simple it is to tame what is it, like a 500-meter long beast?
Yeah. So in the book, interestingly enough, it doesn't say how he does it. It's just said he was able to tame a sandworm and ride it. So this was the first attempt at a visual adaptation of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it weren't very good.
It wasn't good. But the one thing I do appreciate is the string of the guitar when he's on there with Stilgar and he's like controlling it.
It
Like,
didn't
the
look
soundtrack
shit.
kicks there.
It didn't look shit in and of itself, as in they did a good job of putting it together in terms of visuals.
Yeah.
But the idea that that is enough to tame that worm is bollocks.
Yeah, it doesn't. It should be like an almost impossible feat.
Yeah. It should have been
he
like
made it look too easy.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
So,
He starts teaching them some like guerrilla warfare shit. And
Yeah.
they use it to start taking down the Harkonnens, which I'm like, yeah, that's how. That is historically how locals would stand up for themselves, like guerrilla warfare tactics. You know the terrain. This is your home. You know the nooks and crannies and what you could use to your advantage. That's natural.
Yeah.
You know, the guerrilla warfare is makes sense that they start doing it this way.
Yeah, and we flash forward 2 years. And this is how it happens in the book, by the way. It just jumps.
I was gonna assume like it goes from this point on, everything is just ridiculous. Actually, from about 2 scenes before this, it just starts going like a bullet. Like what was the first half of the movie, or the first 2/3 of the movie, are incredibly slowly paced,
Yeah.
and now it just goes like a runway train. It's like, you know, when you said he took it from 4 hours to 2:20, whatever it ends up being. He left
2 hours 20, yeah.
He left the first 2 hours as were, and then turned the second 2 hours into 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
But the flash forward happens in the book as well, and it was just as like, oh, okay.
Jarring, mate.
Yeah. Paul sees that Gurney's alive, which again happens in the book. He's just there.
He's now working for the Harkonnens at this point, right?
No,
is he not?
he's just with a random like group of Fremen.
Oh, I assumed he'd been.
But they were both attacking the same ship at the same time.
Oh, I assumed he had been like coerced into fighting for the other side or something.
No. You see more of it in the book, but it's like he's working with like outlaw Fremen, like disrupting, like basically doing the same thing Paul's doing. They're doing 2 battles on both fronts, unknowing.
Oh,
And then they finally clash at the same time. It's like, you're alive.
You're alive.
So they skip a interesting side plot point where Gurney's like, oh, well, we had a traitor who betrayed us. It was obviously Lady Jessica, because she's a Bene Gesserit witch. She probably had her own intentions. So there's literally a moment where he goes to kill her, and Paul sees that and goes, fuck. And like stops it because, oh, I couldn't see that happening. I need to drink the water of life because I'm not seeing the future properly anymore.
Yeah, my abilities are fading.
Yes. But before he drinks the water of life, the guilds basically tell the Emperor, look, spice has kind of like stopped flowing on Arrakis. You need to go down there and sort it out yourself. Because it's an issue for all of us.
Get your hands dirty for once, come on.
Yeah. So Paul now drinks the water of life. They have to bind him in the desert, which is terrifying.
Yeah, fuck that.
That's
That's the kind of stuff that if I'd have seen this film when I was like 12, would have given me fucking nightmares. Like the scary monsters, fine, everything else fine, but being like tied up that way and then left in the desert, that's the thing that would have given me nightmares.
Yeah, absolutely. All the like worms are just around him, just like watching as the water's just flowing through him. his eyes start bleeding. Jessica's face starts bleeding. Aaliyah's face starts bleeding. The Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother's face starts bleeding. So this is clearly like, oh, something big is happening. He awakens. He now has blue eyes because he's just had like an overdose of like all this like unfermented spice, essentially.
Yeah.
He shouts, "The sleeper has awakened," because he's now essentially what he was destined to become.
I shout that every morning.
He rallies the troops. He screams, "Long live the fighters," which is a direct quote from the book. Cool thing about the Denis Villeneuve version, they have Paul actually say it in the Fremen language.
Oh, okay.
Which shows how he's ingratiated more.
One of us.
Because there's would you say up to this point, Paul has been treated as a hero? As like he is the de facto good guy?
Only since meeting up with the Fremen.
So would you then like say like there has
he
been,
felt like he felt like a victim before that.
But what I mean is like this whole like him leading this crusade is a good thing, right? Him like waging this war is a good thing.
This current war, yes, yeah.
What if I told you this was? What if I told you the whole point of this is like he isn't meant to be doing this, and he's actually it is the Pocahontas like thing of he is invading these people's lands and he's taking over as their white savior, and this is a bad thing.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean, but
that's the point of the book.
See, to me it's it's the very is it the Last Samurai and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't problem.
I don't think of it on the scale of him being the leader. I do think of like the idea of them fighting back as a positive thing.
Yeah,
but I hadn't really even, obviously coming from that place of privilege, I hadn't really. The problem was, I think if I was enjoying the movie at this point, that might have taken me back out of it. But because I was finding the movie fucking hard work, I had other stuff to think about.
Because this is the problem with this adaptation of Dune. It misinterprets Paul's story.
Yeah.
He's not a hero. He's basically been manipulated by all these extenuating factors to have to take over this like planet and basically control them in this like holy crusade that they should not really be a part of.
Yeah, so I was semi-right when I said he was a victim.
Yeah. He's a victim, but then it's not really explained well in here, but he is aware of like he goes down this path, he creates death, but he still continues to do it. Like his visions in the book, in the first movie and the second movie of Denis Villeneuve's versions, they are horrific. They are showing death in his name that on both sides that he is not wanting, but he is still doing it. And I mean, the first book it was misinterpreted so much that Frank Herbert wrote the second book, Messiah, to basically go, "You fuckers didn't get it. I'm going to show you how bad it is." And then Paul compares himself to Hitler by saying, "Hitler killed this many people. I've killed more. Ergo, I am better."
Oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Again, like you said, I'm also not reading we're not also reading the original book. Yeah. We're
basing it off this. Yeah.
We're watching a watered down 80s. Remember, it's the 80s.
Yeah.
80s version written by and directed by a guy who is known for doing weird shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bizarre. I mean, I don't think if this is your first exposure to Dune as a concept, or even, yeah, you're just not going to get it. Like, not from this.
No, it's a fundamental like misunderstanding of the source material, and it's really like frustrating.
You're 100% right as well. Like Lynch has painted Paul as the savior of these people. I'm almost thankful that it doesn't start at the beginning of the movie though. Like,
Yeah,
he's not this savior from like Dot from point one. He becomes it right near the end, and we only get kind of half an hour of this
yeah.
movie where he's yeah. I've
But like
come
there,
to save
yeah.
you local people.
But like, there are other like things missing. Like him and Stilgar's relationship is barely touched upon in this movie. But like he becomes his right hand man. And there's a
Yeah.
moment in the book where like all the clans are meeting, and for Paul to officially be like his clan's leader, he has to kill Stilgar. But he literally says, "Fuck your traditions. We're doing it my way. I'm not getting rid of my best tactician."
Well, yeah.
And
Okay.
then he declares himself Duke of Arrakis, basically saying, "I own all of you."
So in the book, he immediately did. You, so when you read the book, were you like, oh yeah, he's an asshole?
It's look, he's not an arsehole, but he's cause like he thinks what he's doing is right. But if you look at it from an outside perspective, he has just entered this world, and he is basically using their rules and traditions to serve him.
Well, he's colonized it without an army. Is
Yeah,
what he's done.
it's colonization because again, this movie doesn't talk about it. Lisan al Gaib is their savior from the sky. This is a thing that the fucking Bene Gesserit done on multiple planets where they have implanted the idea of a savior from an outer world.
Oh, okay.
Paul
Yeah.
has arrived. He knows their ways because he studied it because he was born into royalty where he could study the stuff. He understands their ways. It's all these coincidences that make him go, he's our savior. So he's easily able just to take over.
Well, like fuck me. This is way more like when you said let's do Dune. This is way more politically and morally and ethically layered
Yeah.
than I realised.
That's why I wanted to talk about it because it's just fascinating seeing a very cookie cutter clean version of it when it's way more layered. And it's really like fascinating to think what would have Lynch done if he was allowed to make his 4 hour version.
Would he? Yeah. Would he have? Has he? I mean, is that script available? Has they ever published it?
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting read, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But now the Fremen, they launch their attack on the Emperor. Raban got killed off screen. That does happen in the book. That does happen in the book. Gurney literally goes, "Yeah, I killed him."
He's gone. He's dead.
Yeah. The Fremen plant hundreds of thumpers because they're leading an army of worms towards the Emperor's palace.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, that's how you do it, right?
Yeah. The Emperor calls the Baron in and just shows Raban's head, like, "Look, it's not going well for you." Then Aaliyah just walks in.
I love this bit. This is one of my favourite bits of the movie. A fucking child just walks into like the Emperor's throne room or the Baron's throne room, whatever it is. She's just like, "My brother's gonna come kill you all, by the way."
Yeah. And the Reverend Mother's like freaking out because like she knows what this is. She knows it's an
Yeah.
abomination in her eyes. And Alia's just so strong that she's already in the Reverend Mother's mind. She's like, "Tell them who the fuck I am." And she's like, "That is Paul Atreides' sister." And they go, "Paul's alive?" Fuck. So then also another thing that they're using, which again they don't mention how they found it. They have atomic weapons.
Yeah, yeah. They're just blasting. So doesn't even the Emperor join in on this bit where he's like trying to man a gun.
Yeah, he's trying to like shoot down all the sandworms, which is hilarious. But they just like reach through anyway. They're just powering through. The Baron gets close to Relia. She slashes him with a gomja bar, and like activates this like floaty thing, so he flies out the room.
Yeah, man. She fucking murks him. She shanks him up real good.
And then he flies out the room because the wall's been blown up, and he gets eaten by a sandworm.
It's the way he deserved to go. Let's be honest.
Yep, he does deserve it. So Paul enters the room. He spots Frey's like It's like, there's a Harkonnen there. Interesting. He uses the voice on the Reverend Mother telling her to be silent. Just sends her flying back a bit.
Yeah, he outpowers her.
Yeah, which is it's a like show how powerful he's become. That he's can overpower a Reverend Mother with ease.
And he
challenges, he challenges Faye to a battle. Do you realize there's a certain character missing from all this? Princess Irulan.
Oh yeah, she doesn't. She just isn't. She just in this scene as well, just standing there.
Yeah, I will specify why I just called her out at the end because this is a big thing that they ignore, and it shows more of why Paul's a bit of a dick. So, Paul and Fate have their knife battle. In the book, they strip down to their underwear.
Of course they do. The Baron would have fucking got his rocks off to that.
Yeah. So Paul kills Fade. You know, it's a big back and forth battle, but Fade he kills him. He brings water back.
Shanks him right in the throat.
Yeah, like through the throat, and the knife is in his mouth there.
Ugh.
Yeah, great thing about visual, I can describe it. I can show it.
Yeah, which reminds me of Hot Fuzz at the end.
Oh god, on the mini cathedral, yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is where the ending drastically changes in this last 2 minutes.
Okay.
Paul brings water back to Arrakis and, declared the Kwisatz Haderach by his sister, and it's like, yay, he's done it. He's done the thing. This is not how it ends. How it really ends is Paul goes to the Emperor. You're fucking done, mate. I'm Emperor. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to marry your daughter Irulan, but she will not bear my children. So your bloodline ends here. I'm going to have Chani as my actual wife, my concubine, like how Jessica was to Leto.
Yeah.
And she will bear my children. Basically saying, I'm fucking you over. I'm fucking her over. Because she has no agency now. And
this is again a proper throwback to those old times.
Yeah.
Where specifically females were just married off.
Yeah. And because the guild are against him now, because he's like, no, this is not what we wanted. He's like, fine then, I'm going to war with you fucks. And
Great.
That's how Dune ends. That's how the book ends.
With him just going, I don't want a holy war. Actually, let's have another war. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's like, you're not giving me what I want. Let's fucking go.
Like a scrap outside of a chip shop.
So, what did you think?
I'm going to be honest, Tim. This may be the one I enjoyed least out of everything you've ever asked me to watch, listen to, read, play. I found this fucking difficult. It took me most of a day to watch this because I had to keep stopping. It was nonsensical. It was at points poorly put together, mostly with the audio. I had the trouble. Not the score. Let's leave Toto out of this. They smashed it. But the actual audio mix, like the bad choice in it. I understand it's 84 and you're limited in your effects. No effects is better than bad effects. Like, it was convoluted. There was too much exposition. And this is probably from the book, but there's far too many fucking characters. It's just, and like you said, it's essentially, it turns into Pocahontas at the end. And we all rip Avatar for being Pocahontas. So let's rip this as well. Like, it really made me think, and I haven't rewatched the part 1 of the new ones yet, but is there that real Pocahontas feel in that movie too? I don't know.
Not really. Again, it's a misunderstanding of the material because this is treated like, oh, this is a good thing that he's here kind of thing.
Mm.
But with all other adaptations, it's understanding that Paul is inadvertently going to make life worse for these people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have mixed feelings on this movie. I think for the first hour up until the siege, I could see what they were attempting to go for.
It was so slow though.
Yeah, but when you're adapting Dune, that's the thing. You have to be very dense. That, but the thing is that part one, like the Denis Villeneuve review understood was there were characters to strip out, there were elements to tone down, there was like a flow to it. But the problem with this is because it's one movie, you do all this build up, but then the resolution is just rushed.
Yeah, so that was my beef with. That's what I said to you earlier, when it feels like he had this long script that he turned the last 2 hours into 20 minutes. Whereas instead of that, we've just got a second movie for the modern ones. So
Yeah. Which is like what Denis Villeneuve said he wanted to do, like from the first, like, I know this book is too dense, it needs to be 2 parts.
yeah, are they calling the adaptation of the second book just part 3, or is it?
No,
gonna
it's
be...
gonna be called Messiah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and thankfully Messiah is quite a small book. It's half the size of Dune, and so it's gonna be one movie.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So, do you want to know what the Rotten Tomato score for this movie is?
Oh, it's either going to be really high or really low. 42.
You were close, 37.
Really low, just like it should be.
So,
I can't. No, I know. This is our modus. This is our modus operandi, if you will. We talk about things that are cult classics. Not
Yeah.
all of it, but some of it's just like in the zeitgeist or whatever.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that, to me, and I've never watched it before, but to me, it felt like one of those things that people considered a cult classic, and it must have its following.
I mean,
But fuck me.
Arrow re-released it, and they're known for cult stuff.
Yeah, but fuck me, I do not. As someone who loves sci-fi, I have a bit of an appreciation for, especially 80s sci-fi. I think the 80s was when the effects hadn't quite caught up, but we got a lot of practical effects.
Yeah.
And we got some good storytelling. A lot of original ideas still. Some modern sci-fis, they kind of recycle a lot of ideas. I don't think the 80s ones did, well, mostly because they were the first ones to do what is now being recycled. And I've got a bit of a little soft spot for 80s sci-fi. And this just was wank.
See, Dune fans, they understand this is a bad movie. They understand it. Like, they don't deny it. But they appreciate it was the first attempt to tackle something that was, again, considered unfilmable. Because how do you film a political space drama with Pocahontas, with Jesus allegories and all that stuff, and attempt to make it digestible? So we obviously, as we said, it's not done well, but the attempt is appreciated by how, especially for like a big studio movie, because Universal produced this.
I think if it was most other writers, producers, directors, other than David Lynch, we would have got a less wholehearted attempt to kind of cram in all those details.
Yeah.
So another writer and director team, or individual person, if they did it themselves, would have just streamlined the movie, made it a bit of like a space romp instead. Because that's possible with these ideas. You can make it into a bit of an Indiana Jones, a bit of a Star Wars, space romp. But no, they went with like every detail.
Yeah. I think there's also like a distinct idea to separate from Star Wars by focusing more on the politics side of it at the start. Because this was before prequels where that was all politics.
Yeah.
But so this had a budget of 40 to 42 million. Its box office return 30 to 37 million.
That's all. That'll all be based on like I said, Joe Schmo is going to watch this and go, "What the fuck was that?" they're going to
exactly.
walk out of the cinema and tell all their friends not to bother.
Yeah, and
Word of mouth, especially back then, was so powerful. And obviously,
yeah,
we don't really have word of mouth now. We have fucking Rotten Tomatoes reviews and people
yeah,
talking on YouTube. But it's the same principle.
yeah,
Why did no one go and watch The Marvels? Because it got panned.
yeah,
And you know what? I watched that recently. It's not the best Marvel movie. Of course it isn't. It's fairly fun, though. Harmless.
yeah.
Watched it on the sofa while eating a bag of crisps, and, it was a laugh. It was all right.
As Disney
Like,
intended.
I don't think it got... I think it was really harshly reviewed, that. I know we're going off topic here, but I do think that was really harshly reviewed, that movie. It's way more fun to watch than The Eternals.
See, I liked the Eternals. Like, that
The
got
Eternals was-
critically panned.
Yeah, The Eternals was fine, but I think it got less critically panned than The Marvels, which...
Shocking.
Yeah.
But
Oh.
so we are approaching episode 40. And
Fuck me, we've been doing this for fucking ages.
I know. And we teased that we were going to do another joint host episode where we get to talk about something we love. And there was just something that like we discussed that I think offline, like way back when we started, that we would eventually cover this.
The first
show.
time we spoke about this, I texted you saying, I've got this idea for a podcast, where of slightly different age, of slightly different orientation, and gender, like chosen gender alignment. And I think we could have different takes on movies. And I know we both love movies and TV and music. And I know we're both, obsessed with them. We're both big nerds. What's really funny is we clearly do not have many different takes on things, which is really funny. We just
Like after episode 1, this fell apart.
we mostly sit here and go, oh yeah, no, I thought that too, as opposed to you have an interesting point. I didn't think of that, which is quite funny. Doesn't matter. I still have fun doing this.
Oh, so
And then the first time we met up after the text was we went to a wrestling show for a very small wrestling promotion that no longer exists. And we jumped on a train and discussed it. And everything we were throwing at each other, we were going, no, I've seen that. And the thing we're going to talk about in the next episode was like the second thing I said, I think. And you were like, I love it. So I was like, yeah. All right, let's we'll save that for something special. So, Tim, you smeghead, what are we going to be talking about?
we're going to be talking about Red Dwarf.
Dun, 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 dun. Love Red Dwarf.
This we're going to talk about how much we love it in the next episode, but this was one, like, the moment we both said it, we're like, yeah, this has to be covered one day. So we discussed the way we're going to be covering this is similar to the Simpsons episode, like 2 episodes each, and we're going to host them. Like Simpsons, we're going to do them in release order. And my chosen 2 episodes are Crichton and Quarantine.
Yeah, and then my chosen 2 were Polymorph, which is... It's one of those ones that early on establishes something that then becomes a kind of running gag throughout, and I can't wait to talk about it. And my second one was a later episode, although series 5 out of 8, so not that late, but Back to Reality, which is... Oh, I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, I am so excited. If you would like to follow me on social media, I am available on Instagram, TikTok, X, and, well, yeah, those are under the Tim Martini. And if you want to follow me on Spotify to check out my music, it's just searching up Timothy Martini. Yes, that's simple. Bobby, where can we find you?
I am B Davies _creative. That underscore is very important. It is now part of my lovely branding that I've set up. And you can follow me there for a lot of wrestling-based content. As I said earlier, I did a wedding-based project very recently. I'm hoping to diversify. I love having the wrestling content on there, but I'm looking to diversify the content a bit more with a few projects I've got coming up, which is going to be some fun, I think. And you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter /X/X/Twitter, where I mostly just talk about... That is all wrestling. I very rarely have anything else on there. And they're my two socials, really. I don't really use much else. You can also follow Purpose Wrestling, the wrestling company that I help run, and we have a lot of fun with, at Purpose Wrestling everywhere except Twitter, where it's at WrestlePurpose. Follow us on YouTube. YouTube is the best place to watch Purpose. Everything goes on the YouTube. A little delayed, unless you want to sign up to the Patreon, where you'll get it nice and quick, but it does all go on there eventually. It all filters on eventually. And you can follow this podcast. There is a very handy little thing at CC Society Pod. You want to follow us on Instagram, on X, on
Threads.
TikTok and Threads, and Reddit. It's all CC Society Pod. And I think, and Facebook is /CC Society Pod. We're on Spotify. We're on all major podcasting platforms. If you're thinking, hey, as I did with Apple Podcasts, hey, this platform isn't for me for one reason or another, I jumped over to Overcast, and guess what? We're on there as well. We're on all the major ones. We're also, if you're watching this, you can tell if you're listening to this, we're on YouTube. There's a little bell here, something about subscription. I don't know how I'm meant to... What am I meant to say, Tim? Like, share, and subscribe?
Yeah, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified whenever we have a new episode up. And again, if you're on Spotify, you probably noticed recently, we have video episodes on there too. I somehow just discovered we could upload video podcasts. We were given that right. So if you're on Spotify, you can watch us there.
I still haven't even tried to use the Spotify to watch it back, but we'll see how that works.
Don't worry, it's been working well.
Good. I am glad.
Well, that's been us, and I've been Tim Martini.
Tim Martini, you mustn't fear. Fear is a mind killer. Remember that. Remember that.
And we'll see you next time on our 40th episode spectacular.
Woo! You smegheads.